Photobiomodulation. This is not light therapy in the casual sense. This is the biological switch that reanimates the terrain of your body. While traditional medicine mutes the signal of pain, we audit the source, using coherent photons to quite literally recharge your cellular batteries. Welcome, I am Dr. Padda. At Regen.MD, we operate on a fundamental truth. Pain is not a diagnosis, it is a signal. It is your body's check engine light, warning you of a deeper systemic drift, a breakdown in the very terrain of your biological soil. Treating the signal while ignoring the drift is a failure of the corporate medical model. We perform a forensic audit of your biological soil, analyzing the cytokines like TNF-alpha and IL-1 beta that drive chronic inflammation and structural breakdown. The traditional orthopedic paradigm is an assembly line, treating you as a collection of parts rather than a complex biological system. We refuse to believe in endless, symptomatic injections without addressing the metabolic terrain. We must address viscerogenic obesity. Visceral fat is not just storage, it is a metabolic furnace, pumping out TNF-alpha and IL-6, driving the cytokine storm that saturates your biological terrain with chronic inflammation. This is the root of the drift. The leptin mechanism and NAFLD are primary indicators of this systemic drift. When your metabolic signaling breaks down, your body loses its ability to regulate inflammation, leading to the metabolic syndrome and eventually structural failure. We must move past the MRI delusion. Static images often miss the functional and metabolic crises happening at the cellular level. We look at the biochemical pathways, the actual biological data that define your systemic health and pain. We are living in a state of meta-inflammation, a chronic, low-grade inflammatory crisis driven by metabolic dysfunction. This is where the NLRP3 inflammasome, our master immune regulator, becomes hypersensitized and dysfunctional. The NLRP3 inflammasome is a multi-protein cage, the sentinel of your innate immune system. It responds to danger-associated molecular patterns, or DAMPs, to ignite a cascade of pro-inflammatory cytokines that prevent healing. A critical trigger is mitochondrial DNA leakage. When your mitochondria are stressed, they leak oxidized DNA into the cytoplasm. Your body misinterprets this as a bacterial invasion, triggering the NLRP3 assembly and a cytokine storm. Photobiomodulation is the biological switch. By sending coherent photons to cytochrome C oxidase, the terminal enzyme of the respiratory chain, we restore mitochondrial integrity and stop that leakage at the biological source. This restores the proton gradient and forces the mitochondria to resume efficient ATP production. We are providing the metabolic fuel, the cellular currency, required for tissue synthesis and structural repair of your body. In stressed tissue, nitric oxide binds to CCO, competitively inhibiting oxygen and slowing your cellular engine. Near-infrared light quite literally knocks that NO off the enzyme, unblocking your respiratory capacity and performance. But we aren't just making ATP, we are inducing a metahormetic spike in reactive oxygen species. This transient pulse signals the nucleus to activate protective transcription factors like NF-kappa B and AP1 to initiate repair. This is mitochondrial retrograde signaling. We are teaching your cells to be resilient. We are shifting them from a threat state to a regeneration state, modulating the very genes that control your systemic recovery and metabolic health. We are modulating transcription factors like NF-kappa B and AP1, directing the expression of protective genes that rebuild the biological terrain. This is the difference between symptom suppression and true metabolic regeneration. We also must address metabolic endotoxemia, the translocation of lipopolysaccharides, or LPS, from the gut. This low-grade bacterial presence primes your immune system for a state of perpetual hyperalertness and inflammation. By improving the expression of tight junction proteins like ZO1, photobiomodulation helps restore your gut barrier integrity, reducing the translocation of toxins into your bloodstream and silencing the metabolic fire of meta-inflammation. Photobiomodulation acts as a quench for this endotoxemia. Research shows it can reduce LPS-induced cytokines by nearly 50%, lowering the noise of systemic inflammation and resolving the meta-inflammation of the biological soil. We also look at methylglyoxal and the glycation of your proteins. This biochemical noise creates advanced glycation end products, AGS, that accelerate the structural drift and neurodegenerative decline of your body. We clear the noise. Precision is everything. The Arndt-Schultz law dictates that while weak stimuli increase activity, excessive energy suppresses it. We calibrate every pulse based on your specific tissue depth and metabolic state. No cookbook medicine. Most clinics operate on a cookbook approach, hitting every patient with the same dosage. That is not science, it is assembly line medicine. We rely on forensic calibration to ensure we never inhibit the healing process of your cells. We demand precision. Consumer-grade LEDs are excellent for skin health, but they lack the wattage to reach deep structural issues. To reach a lumbar disc or hip joint, you need the coherent energy of a Class 4 laser to penetrate the anatomy and metabolic terrain. We use this technology to prime the terrain before any orthobiologic procedure. If your tissue is saturated with oxidative stress, any cells we introduce will struggle to integrate and survive. We clear the noise first, providing a receptive soil. Malhotra et al. Have demonstrated that photoactivated PRP provides a more controlled, sustained release of growth factors than chemical activation. This precision is essential for our specialized megaclot formulations and regeneration journey. Our megaclot formulations utilize BMAC and PRP under submillimeter ultrasound or digital fluoroscopy guidance. We are placing the biological fuel exactly where the structural breakdown is occurring in the tissue. We are clinical commanders. By priming the terrain with laser, we ensure that the cells we introduce, whether PRP or MSCs, have the metabolic fuel required to integrate and survive in the host tissue environment for effective and lasting biological repair. We must also address sarcopenia. Muscle is the organ of longevity. It is your body's primary metabolic sink. Without structural integrity and muscle mass, you cannot maintain metabolic sovereignty or systemic glucose regulation. Protect the sink. Muscle mass is not just about strength. It is a metabolic necessity. It is the buffer against systemic drift. Our goal is to protect and rebuild that sink to ensure your metabolic resilience as you age and recover from injury. As noted by Popola and colleagues, photobiomodulation is critical for reducing inflamed aging and restoring the structural capacity of your body's biological soil and metabolic terrain for lasting systemic health and sovereignty. This terrain-opening approach is essential for peptide therapy. Whether we are using the Wolverine stack or mitochondrial restorers like MOTS-C PBM, provides the bioenergetic foundation for these molecules to function optimally in your body. We stay at the forensic edge of medicine. As of February 2026, 14 vital peptides have been returned to Category 1 status. We utilize these tools to rebuild your biological capacity with clinical commander precision and total authority. We synthesize laser with electronic signal therapy. While laser provides the metabolic fuel, EST provides the signaling cues through varied frequencies and ion channel activity, creating a synergistic environment for deep tissue regeneration and repair. This is the three-step activation journey of the Padda protocol. We sense the triggers, we open the biological pathways with PBM and EST, and we integrate for lasting metabolic sovereignty, resilience, and total systemic health. Reclaim your journey. We track this journey with Mesura.ai, our proprietary platform for digital biomarkers. We monitor your HRV, sleep patterns, and movement cycles to ensure your activation journey is data-driven, precise, forensic, and objective. We track the truth. As highlighted in Nature Reviews Neurology 2024, transcranial PBM is now clearing amyloid plaques via the glymphatic system. We apply these same clinical principles to your spine and joint terrain to ensure total neurological self-regulation and balance. This neurophotobiomodulation resolves the NLRP3-mediated inflammation of the brain's microglia, promoting neurogenesis and cognitive resilience. We are rebuilding the biological capacity of your body from the brain down. Total activation. We specialize in the forensics of concussions and MTBI. These are functional injuries missed by standard CT and MRI. We use biomechanics and objective data to substantiate these invisible injuries for our patients and sovereign seekers of health. In a world of subjective pain, our methodology meets the Dober standard for clinical validity. We rely on empirical testing, extensive peer review, and standardized protocols with defined error rates to substantiate every metabolic intervention we perform. We establish the forensic truth. We address the crisis of endorphin bankruptcy, where chronic opioids shut down your natural relief system. We intervene intelligently to reverse hyperalgesia and restore your nervous system's capacity for self-regulation, balance, sovereignty, and health. My job as a reanimateur is to rebuild your biological capacity for health. Photobiomodulation is the evidence-based tool that makes your metabolic sovereignty possible. Reclaim your health and activation today. Stop the systemic drift. Reanimate your life. Stop treating the symptoms and start managing the terrain. I invite you to join us at Regan.md in St. Louis. Let's start your activation journey today. We look forward to working with you on your sovereignty, resilience, and systemic capacity for health.